Let's learn a shtickle Toldos Shimshon on Perekei Avos, Perekei Mishnah Dalet. In the middle of the Mishnah says, "Batel retzoincha mipnei retzoinoi." You should give up your own will for the will of the Eibishter. Kedei sheyevatel retzoin acherim mipnei retzonnecha. In order that other people's will should be bottled, other people should give up their will in the face of your will. So the Toldos Shimshon explains this Mishnah that is based on the Gemara in Avodah Zarah Daf Yud Zayin. The Gemara brings a story that Reb Chanina and Reb Yonason were going on the road, and they came to a fork in the road. One road led them down to a place of Avodah Zarah, and the other road led to a place of Znus, a Beis Zoynus. So one told his friend, let's go down the road that leads to a house of Avodah Zarah. Why? The Nochis Yitzre, because at that time the Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah was already geschochten. They shechted the Yetzer Hara Avodah Zarah. People didn't have a Yetzer Hara for Avodah Zarah anymore. So if we have a choice to go down the road that there's Zoynus on one road, Znus, and the other side is Avodah Zarah, so let's go down the road that has a base Avodah Zarah, because we won't have a Yetzer Hara. So the other one said, no, the opposite. Let's go down the road that the house of Zoynus is there. This way we have a chance to overcome our Yetzer Hara, and we'll get more schar. And they listened to him. They walked down the road that passed by the house of Zoynus, and when the Zoynus saw them, they ran in, they all ran away. And they saw that he was right, his decision was right. Toldos says that we see a halacha from this Gemara, Mikan yesh lilmod, says Toldos, we learn from this Gemara that a person should distance himself from Avodah Zarah as much as possible, because we see they had a choice to go down the road of Avodah Zarah or down the road of Znus, and they went down the road of Znus, and they were right, because when they got to the Beis Zoynus, the Zoynus ran in. So they see that so we see the decision was right. So we see a person should distance himself as much as possible from the Beis Avodah Zarah. So the Toldos Shimshon asks, how do we see from here that a person should distance himself from Avodah Zarah? The reason that they gave in the Gemara was, in the story, that they went down the road that led to the house of Zoynus, because this way they could overcome the Yetzer Hara and get more schar. You don't see from this Gemara that it's very praiseworthy and very important to distance yourself from Avodah Zarah. They gave a svara that let's go down the road that has Zoynus, this way we'll overcome our Yetzer Hara and we'll get more schar. And secondly, he asks, what was Taka Vehete to go down the road that passed the Beis Zoynus? We know the klal is that a person is not allowed to put himself in a matzav of a nisoyin. He's not allowed to say, I'm going to put myself in a nisoyin and then overcome the nisoyin. So if the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah was already bottled, so what was Taka Vehete to go down the road that led to the house of Zoynus and tell yourself that you'll overcome the Yetzer Hara? The klal is, the Gemara says in Sanhedrin, "La'olam al yavi adam atzmo l'dei nisoyin." A person should not bring himself to the hands of a nisoyin. So the Toldos Shimshon explains. First, let's understand what was the conversation, what was the argument between Reb Chanina and Reb Yonason. Why one said, "Let's go down the road of Avodah Zarah," and the other one said, "Let's go down the road of the Zoynus." So the Toldos Shimshon explains that the man the Omer that said, let's go down the road of Avodah Zarah, he understood that a person has to distance himself from Avodah Zarah because he shouldn't come to do Avodah Zarah. He shouldn't put himself in a nisoyin. So if he had a nisoyin of Avodah Zarah in front of him, or a nisoyin of Znus in front of him, so he made a simple cheshbon that since the Avodah Zarah of the Yetzer Hara of Avodah Zarah was bottled at that time, so it's an obvious choice to go down the road of Avodah Zarah, because there's not such a nisoyin today. Nobody has the Yetzer Hara to do Avodah Zarah. And the other side is still Yetzer Hara. The side of Zoinus is still Yetzer Hara. So it's obvious, let's go down the road of Avodah Zarah. So the other one said back that you're making a mistake. The reason why you shouldn't go past the house of Avodah Zarah is not because you might do the Avera of Avodah Zarah. There's a special inyan that Hashem wants us to distance ourselves from Avodah Zarah. Not because you might come to do Avodah Zarah. We shouldn't have any shaykhis to Avodah Zarah, even going down a road that has a house of Avodah Zarah. That alone is a problem. And that's what Toldos says. We see from this Gemara that distancing yourself from Avodah Zarah is a very important thing, because that was what he was saying. He was saying it has nothing to do with a nisoyin. It's not because you might come to do Avodah Zarah. It's because a Yid has to distance himself as much as possible from Avodah Zarah. And that's why they went down the other road, the road that led them to the house of the Zoinus. Now, what right did they have to put themselves in a matzah of nisoyin? You're right that a person has to distance himself from Avodah Zarah, even not for the fact that he might do Avodah Zarah. The mere fact that there is Avodah Zarah there, he has to distance himself. But on the other hand, what right do they have to go down the road of Zoinus if they're putting themselves in a matzav of a nisoyin? So that the Toldos Shimshon says, a new pshat in the Gemara. What that man the Omar was saying, let's go down the road of where the Zoinus are, and we'll overcome our Yetzer Hara and we'll get schar. What he meant to say was that the schar of not going down the road of Avodah Zarah, that'll save us from the Yetzer Hara of the Zoinus. Just like we find that the Gemara says that when someone is learning Torah, the Torah saves him from the Yetzer Hara. So when someone distances himself from Avodah Zarah is such a strong Avera that it's equal to Kol HaTorah Kula. If somebody does Avodah Zarah, it's as if he's over Kol HaTorah Kula. And if somebody's koifer in Avodah Zarah, then it's as if he's Mekayim Kol HaTorah Kula. So by them distancing themselves from the Avodah Zarah, so they were as if they were sitting and learning Torah. They had the schus of Torah, because Avodah Zarah is equal to the whole Torah. So it's as if they were learning, and the schus of learning is going to save them from the Yetzer Hara. That's what he was saying. Let's go down the road of the Zoinus. What right do we have to put ourselves in that situation? Because we're running away from Avodah Zarah, and in the schus of running away from Avodah Zarah, it's as if we're learning Torah, and that alone will save us from the Yetzer Hara of Zoinus. And they were right, and he was right, because when they passed the house of the Zoinus, they all ran in, and that showed them that his decision was right. So based on this Gemara, says the Toldos Shimshon, is our Mishnah. Batel ritzoincha b'pnei ritzoinah. What would you want to do if you were in such a situation? You have a choice to go down the road of Avodah Zarah or down the road of Zoinus. So you tell yourself it's much more simple to go down the road of Avodah Zarah, because there's not such a Yetzer Hara, instead of going down the road of a Zoinus that you have to fight the Yetzer Hara. So what's your will? Your own will is to go down the road of Avodah Zarah. It's batel ritzoincha. Be mevatel and give up your own will to go down the road of Avodah Zarah mitnei ritzoinoi, for the will of the Eibishter, that he doesn't want you to have any shaykhis to Avodah Zarah. Distance yourself from Avodah Zarah as much as possible. And you know what's going to happen if you do that? Then other people's will, the Zoinus that were waiting over there to bring them to do Avera, they themselves ran away. By doing this, by you giving up your own will that you wanted to go down the road of Avodah Zarah, instead you went down the road of Zoinus because you knew that's what the Eibishter wanted. Now that's going to cause that other people's will. Who's that? The Zoinus that were waiting there, they had a will to cause you to do Avera. They also ran away. Their will to cause you to do Avera, that will be bottled in the face of your will that you don't want to do Avera. In the schus of the Zera Shimshon, may we have bracha and atzlocha b'chol ha'inyan.